Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Knicks couldn't get the job done in Game 5, even with Jayson Tatum sidelined. Also, the Timberwolves back on the prowl in the Western Conference Finals in their sights. Plus, the Mavs secured Cooper Flagg, sure, but should Nico Harrison still be around to take him?
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Boston Celtics came out the desperate team in Game 5 at home. They get a Game 5 win, 127-102. They keep this series alive, even without Jayson Tatum, who is going to miss the rest of the series and likely most of next season with a torn Achilles. Alex Wolf from Locked On Knicks joins me now. And Alex, we were chatting just before we came on that, look, this is just what happens in these games. In Game 5s, when a team is down 3-1, they tend to come out and throw a haymaker, especially a team like Boston. But how did it happen? It was more than just they needed it more.
Yeah, I mean, there was some hot three-point shooting for one thing, which, I mean, that's what Boston aims to do any given game. They shoot 22 of 49. That's 45% for anyone keeping track at home. Like Derek White not bad, right? Derek White comes out, is shooting the lights out. Pritchard, it came in, really affected things off the bench, and freaking Luke Cornett. I mean, I think I'm ready to revoke his once a Nick, always a Nick card. I don't think those chips cash anymore.
10, 9, and 7 blocks in the game, and was referred to at one point during the broadcast as a one-man wrecking crew. Not something you would have thought you'd hear about Luke Cornett of all the Celtics that it could be.
I just want to say, I knew back in the day, I loved Luke Cornett. I was really sad to see him go from the Knicks. But yeah, so I mean, the Celtics, they played desperate. They played like they needed this game. The Knicks, I think, played a little stupid. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I'm not going to try to take away the fact that like the Celtics had a great shooting game and whatever, but I think that the Knicks came out, they didn't have their foot on the gas once again. And they did have their foot on the gas and they went up by, I think, 8 or 10 was their maximum that they managed to go up in this game. And then it kind of felt like in the third quarter, they came out and they lollygagged after being tied at half. And, they fell into a huge hole again. And then there's only so many times you can crawl out from 20 down against the defending champions, even if the defending champions are without their best player now. Like they're still a potent team. They're still a well-coached team. They're still going to generate threes. And the Knicks, especially once Brunson and Towns got in foul trouble, I think had to kind of abandon or not fully abandon, but at least hedge too much on switching, and they were trying to protect Brunson clearly, by not having him stick on switches. And then there was miscommunications between him and Cat. And that's always going to be the Achilles heel of this Knicks defense, is if you can attack both Cat and Brunson in the same play, you're in good shape, because that's the defensive weak point of this team at the 1 and 5 spot, with those 3 fantastic defenders in between them, and OG and Mikal and Josh Hart. So, I think it was part hot shooting, part the fact that the Knicks just kind of abandoned some of the principles that have gotten them this far, and all that added up to, shorthanded or not, the Celtics came away with this win. And I mean, honestly, they deserved it. They played harder and they played better than the Knicks did in this game.
Yeah, and look, this is a series where Boston has been up at least 14 in every game. They've been up 20, 3 times? And the Knicks have been the tougher team in the second half. They've come back and they've executed the best in these fourth quarters. That being said, take me inside a little bit the mind of Knicks fans right now, because they know that the Celtics have been up big in every one of these games. And we see that they can do this. Like, what is the confidence level right now, do you think, of Knicks fans?
I mean, I'm still feeling pretty good. I think that, it's a good point that they've been down by 14 at least in every single one of these games. But this game felt more to me like a reversal of what we saw like in, say, game 1, for example, where it was like the Celtics got out to the lead. The Knicks came back. The Knicks snatched the momentum. The Knicks won the game. Obviously, it was tighter around the margins down the end of that game. But this felt similar to that to me, where it was just like, the Celtics made the comeback in this game. They were the scrappy team. They're now officially well, I don't know. It seems like betting lines still aren't saying so, but they are the underdog at this point, I think, for the rest of the series. And they played like it in this game, which is sort of the mentality the Knicks have been coming in with. As far as what my confidence level is like they still only have to win one out of the next two games. And, so that's the joy of going up 3-1 is then you only have to win one out of three games. Yep. And they lose this one. The Celtics probably riding the emotional high of, trying to win this one for Tatum and reacting to that, to losing their star for the rest of the season. And probably, as you said, most of, if not all of next season. It's, you got to just come back and take care of business on your home floor. And you have to play a game that's much more akin to what you did in game 4, I think, if you're the Knicks in this next game, which is play with force. Don't go out there. Don't lollygag. Do not assume that anything is given to you. Do not assume that just because these guys are without Jayson Tatum that they're going to lay down, because they're not. The Celtics probably think, hey, if we could beat the Knicks, we could probably beat the Pacers too. Maybe we end up back in the finals again, even without Jayson Tatum.
Who knows what happens? Who knows who comes out of the West right now?
Exactly. I mean, they're an extremely talented team, top to bottom. Even without their best player, there's a reason that they basically cakewalked to a title last year. So, I'm still pretty confident. I think the Knicks can do it, but they cannot come out and play a game like what they played today, or else they're going to lose in 7 games, and that's going to be crazy heartbreaking as a Knicks fan. So I'm hoping for it. I feel, if I'm putting percentage chance on it, maybe going into the day, I was 95% certain they're walking out of this thing with their heads held high, but whatever. Now maybe I'm at 80% or something, still pretty overwhelmingly thinking that they're going to still win this series, but it got to do better next game. And it would be really nice to actually get a closeout game at Madison Square Garden for the first time in forever. So maybe they can get one of those, but yeah, I'm pulling for it. I think they can still do it, but it's definitely not over yet.
You can stay up to date all year on the New York Knicks by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Knicks on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Your Locked On Sports Today coming up. The Wolves had a chance to send the Warriors home without Steph Curry. Before we get to that, the Trailblazers are still looking for a buyer. The NBA playoffs roll on, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes it easy to bet, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, from 3-pointers to steals to assists. There's just so many ways to bet your favorite props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You can place your first $5 bet on today's lone NBA game. The Nuggets, a game away from elimination, are 4.5-point home dogs to the Thunder. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Is officially stepping out of the lane. The 87-year-old Nike co-founder says he's no longer interested in buying the Portland Trailblazers, despite once trying to swoosh in with a $2 billion offer. Knight cited his age, not the team's 4-year playoff drought. With the franchise now officially for sale, one thing is clear: the Blazers are on the market, just not in Knight's size anymore. If you're a Boston fan, you're going, now the threes started to fall after Jayson Tatum gets hurt. The threes helped the Celtics take game 5.
Every time you think the Celtics have it in the bag, they lose. And every time you count them out, they find a way to win. It was a big-time win by 25 here in Game 5 against the Knicks. Luke Kornet's the big story with 7 blocks off the bench, 5 in the third quarter where the Celtics broke it open. Kristaps Porzingis was benched after halftime. He was terrible, but the Celtics got 34 from Derek White. They got a near triple-double from Jaylen Brown. They played with great pace. They played with great force. They played with, you can call it desperation if you want. They held off. The Knicks broke it open in the second half, and it was pure Celtics basketball. And you live to fight another day. I know the whole Jayson Tatum thing made people think that the Celtics were going to just kind of pack it in, but that's not what the Celtics team does. They don't know what to do with prosperity, but they are great with their backs against the wall, and so it's on to Game 6.
The Yankees secured a series victory over the Mariners.
Yankees breathe a sigh of relief as they finish off the series in Seattle, taking the series 2-3 off a huge home run from Aaron Judge late in a ballpark that he absolutely loves to hit in since his debut in 2017. Big pitching performance out of the Yankees today. They looked really good, right? You get a great bullpen performance. Fernando Cruz looked great. Then you get Luke Weaver coming in to strike out the side, and Will Warren, a career high in strikeouts. Everything you could possibly ask for in a victory. Perfectly drawn up, too. A team that can score a lot of runs like they did the other night, and a team that can win games close, that's a good sign for the rest of this season as the Yankees go into the biggest series of the season and potentially the biggest Subway series in 10, 15 years. I mean, can you find a bigger series than this one coming up? We'll be discussing all that over the weekend and in the future on Locked On Yankees, wherever you get your podcasts.
And the Phillies split a doubleheader against the Cardinals.
Wednesday started out well with the Phillies and Jesus Luzardo getting the 2-1 win and having a chance to win their 6th straight series. And you know what? They even had the good vibes roll over from game 1 where they took a 5-1 lead in the first inning to give Aaron Nola some much-needed run support. Nola also had JT Realmuto catching him, not Rafael Marchand. His numbers are far better with JT. But it did not matter in this one as Aaron Nola went on to have the worst start of his career. Nola had his catcher. He had the run support, but I guess he didn't have that pristine weather that he needs so badly that Rob Thompson talks about. He went on to give up 12 runs on 9 hits and 3 homers. And after he gave up the 3rd home run of the game in the 4th inning, Rob Thompson decided, let him out there. He'll figure it out. Well, he didn't, and he continued to get his bell rung. Phillies drop game 2 of the doubleheader and the series to the Cardinals, suffering an embarrassing 14-7 loss.
Locked On host Luke Inman recap Game 5 versus the curryless Warriors.
This team's 8-2 in the playoffs, man. 8-2. No one had them even beating the Lakers, and now they're 8-2. Will this win be enough to finally get some respect of the national media and maybe some of the attention they actually deserve?
Yeah, I think they've slowly been gaining this respect. I think the way that they beat LeBron and Luka was certainly nothing to sneeze at. I think that, I think a lot of people picked the Wolves coming into this series, and then, the narrative obviously switched when Steph went down because of how good Steph looked in the first 10 or so minutes that he played in game 1. But look, I mean, the Timberwolves have just kept the main thing for them, and that's just controlling what they can control and play really hard, and everything took care of itself. That's kind of what Chris Finch talked about pregame down the hall tonight, was just saying, hey, if we play hard and we, focus on the things we're supposed to focus on, then, things are going to take care of itself. And that's exactly what happened, man. The Wolves are now 4-0 in closeout games under Chris Finch. Tonight was their first one at home, so obviously a big one there. And for the first time in franchise history, the Wolves are going to the Western Conference Finals for a 2nd year in a row. So, I mean, the vibes at Target Center were pretty great. You had Julius Randle shimmying and giving Buddy Hield the too small. You had, Ant smiling ear to ear. Dished out a career high, tying 12 assists, and looked super comfortable, just empowering everybody else, facing double teams. The GOAT, Red Panda, was in the house tonight.
I heard that.
Delivered a perfect performance, left the court to MVP chance. And yeah, it was just nice to see the Wolves overcoming some honestly really sloppy play at times. I mean, 53 of Golden State's 110 points either came off of second chance points or turnovers. And so that's 48% of their total scoring output. So I don't necessarily want that to get lost in the sauce, because they're going to have to be significantly better in both of those areas, no matter who they draw in the Western Conference Finals. And this is per Karthika Uthaya Kumar on Blue Sky, said that the Timberwolves have committed 20-plus turnovers for the 3rd game in a row, the longest streak in the playoffs in 18 years. So that's obviously something that they're going to have to clean up. But, hey, the final on the scoreboard has the Timberwolves out in front. The Wolves are going back to the Western Conference Finals. And the most important thing about that, Luke, is that last year the Timberwolves really felt like they let the Nuggets off the hook. They went up 2-0. They won their first 6 games of the playoffs last year, then came home to Target Center and lost both of those games, and then was just in a dogfight from there on. Ended up winning Game 7 on the road in Denver, but they were gassed for that Western Conference Finals against Dallas, and every single Timberwolves player would tell you that they were gassed, and so many of them came into last summer with a renewed focus on conditioning and making sure that their bodies would hold up for this. And so the fact that the Wolves now will for sure get off Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before a potential game one on Sunday. So that game one will be Sunday if Oklahoma City closes the deal tomorrow night. But if Oklahoma City loses and this series goes 7 games, that game 7 would be, I believe, on Sunday, either Saturday or Sunday. But game one of the Western Conference Finals then wouldn't be until Tuesday. So it would be a huge rest opportunity for the Wolves. So I think no matter who you're rooting for the Wolves to face in the Western Conference Finals, you'd certainly want that to go 7 just so you can get some of that advantage that the Mavs enjoyed last season. So, but what a night at Target Center. It was a ton of fun. This crowd was juiced from the start, significantly louder than anything we heard from the crowd at Chase Center in games 3 and 4. So obviously a huge hat tip to a great crowd at Target Center tonight. And hopefully they are all walking out of here pretty happy with the Wolves back in the Western Conference Finals.
No doubt about that. A lot of good points. I do want to pick your brain a little bit more about this, just the extended rest time they could potentially get either way, whether OKC finishes the deal tomorrow night or that goes 7. But lots to get into on top of that. Series MVP, I'm going to ask you. Preview of the Western Conference Finals a little bit later on. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Monarch Money. Monarch Money, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, so Wolves take care of business tonight. They get the job done. I got to say, give the Warriors some credit, battling to the very end, trying to chip away, get this thing close. They just didn't have the manpower or the talent, though. They just ran out of gas, obviously, at the end. 121-110, that's your final.
Stay up to date all year on the Minnesota Timberwolves by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Timberwolves on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Mavericks ownership may not need to continue down this path with Nico Harrison now that they get to raise the flag. Nico Harrison is responsible for one of the most baffling trades in sports history, and yet he's still hanging around Dallas. Locked On Mavs co-host Isaac Harris believes if there's ever a time to get rid of Harrison, it's now.
Nico Harrison. If there's ever a time for ownership to say, like, all right, we can make the move, we can let him go, now would be the time, right? You won the draft lottery. Whoever's coming in to run the franchise would be like, you're getting Cooper Flagg, and whether you want to keep on the timeline or get off the timeline, this is your, like, you don't have to follow that once you make that trade and you're set up for that timeline, you kind of see it of like, well, you kind of like, if you're Patrick DeMai, like, all right, well, I let him make the trade. I got to see if something comes from it or whatever. You don't have to follow any of that now. Even though we all agree that probably already should have happened, it's just like, now's your time. You really could just reset everything.
I don't even have a follow-up to this take. I am in awe of this take. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I just am. I'm in awe of it. It's magnificent. It is why I love these shows. It's why I love Locked On, frankly, because you have the space to come up with that stuff. That it is excellent content. I'm here for it so much. And finally, it takes decades of waiting, controversy, and a posthumous policy change. But on Wednesday night, Cincinnati made sure Pete Rose got his flowers. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, can the Thunder hold on for just one more game versus the Nuggets? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.